All right. We are live.
And by we, what do you mean we?
I mean top five, Jim. That's what I mean.
Top five. Well, but Gary, there's four of us.
I know. It's a very special episode of Top Five. Right on the heels of another special episode. It's crazy. It's getting crowded in here.
I get it. The fifth one is the Holy Spirit. I get it.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, listen.
Is this number 5 of the top 5?
I'm excited.
So it might be. Is this number 5?
I think it might be.
Next episode, top fives.
Also, we left our ladies and we got 2 new life partners each. So here we go.
All right, Jim, what is the topic tonight?
All right. Today's topic is top 5 hip hop albums. Our personal top 5. Again, we're not saying that these are the best. We're not saying these are like the albums that define your generation, but we're saying that these are our personal top 5 hip hop albums. And here comes the kitty. Deacon
joining in.
He's like cats too. Deacon's all about the cats. He's got them too.
Yes.
I'm the only one with the dog.
This is my retired alley cat, Louie. He had a life on the streets, fooling around with the girl kitties, getting into fights. You can't see him. He's got all these scars on his face.
Just
now
like Daddy.
And now he lives with me. And he's totally
Now he's chilling.
Now
Just
he's
like
chilling.
Daddy. So let's introduce our guest.
Thing about top 5 tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, let's introduce our guest and we'll get rolling.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say. Now I am sitting this one out because I know this much about hip hop.
We're already doing the Hove sign. What are you talking about?
No. I know this much. This much.
Okay.
Is that better?
I don't know.
I saw 8 Mile. I went to an Atmosphere show. That's about it. That's everything. That's everything I know.
I think we can all agree that Gary hates hip hop.
No, Gary is just an ignoramus when it comes to hip, just an idiot when it comes to hip hop. So I'm looking forward to this, and I hope the audience will too, just to kind of sit back and kind of get a hip hop 101 from the real experts.
All right, let's do this. And today's show is sponsored by the Yellow Egg.
Nice.
Okay. All right. So not to be selfish or anything, but the way I decided that we're going to do this. I'm going to go first, and then we'll go. I want to say counterclockwise because Deacon counterclockwise, but we're going to go clockwise, and then that way Deacon can kind of see how the show progresses, and I'll run your slides for you, Deacon. All right. So top 5. All right. My top 5. My 5th favorite hip hop album. This might end up on somebody else's list. I don't know, but I can tell you this one barely squeaked past my number 6. 6 and 5 were battling it out. And when this album first came out, I would not have put it in my top 5 or 10 or 20 or 30, but it really over the years grew on me. And even if you had asked me 10 years ago, probably wouldn't have put it top 5, but something's happened in the last 10 years where I look at this album now and I'm like, wow, it's groundbreaking. It stands the test of time and it's very, very unique and it's just good. It's just good. And my number 5 is Paul's Boutique.
Oh, nice.
Your voice.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, when I remember when this album came out, we were just coming off of a big time for License to Ill, which was totally like raunchy high school. It was beer swigging, that vibe of it. And it was misogynistic. It was really comedically misogynistic. And just like that's how I describe Gary. And when this album came out, I think people were just not ready for it. It was kind of misleading,
I was ready for it.
So anyway, so that's my number 5. I know we got a lot of albums to go through, so I'm gonna hand it over to Scott. And Scott.
Okay. So first thing I want to say, in doing this list, I kind of discovered a few things. that kind of surprised me when I was making this list. And one of them is that if I had to pick my top 5 best MCs, none of them would appear on this list. If I had to pick my top 5 best rap songs, I don't think any of them are on any of these albums. So it's, to me, the reason why I picked some of these are the albums I listen to the most, the albums that I keep coming back to, even though they may not be necessarily my favorite, like I said, rapper or MC. They're just solid to me, like all the way through. There's a lot of the artists that I listen to. Like if I could pick and choose, or if there was like a greatest hits, it'd be a whole different list. But so having said that, let me start off with this is an album. When it came out, it was the first, to my knowledge, that I was aware of, the first kind of hip hop concept album. And it's not really, the whole thing's not a concept album, but there's like a concept album within the larger album. There's kind of like a suite of songs. And this thing is just super funky. And it just kind of, I was already familiar. I mean, hip hop introduced me to a lot of stuff that came before, whether it was like, I don't know, like, you know, George Clinton, like Funkadelic and Parliament and all that kind of stuff. But this was definitely in that vibe. So go ahead and pull this one up. So Sex Packets,
Nice.
1990.
Nice.
Digital Underground. This thing is just, it's from start to finish. It's just, it's funny. It's fun. It's ridiculous. It's, I mean, Shock G is like the main, there's a group. I mean, he even spawned like Tupac Shakur. Came out of Digital Underground. I don't think he was in this album, the second album. But a lot of it is just Shock G. There's Money B and Shock G are kind of the main MCs, but Shock G does all these. You heard Humpty Dance, that was kind of, and before that, Do What You Like, but it's not all that. If you've just heard Humpty Dance, I mean, there's like, talk about misogynistic. There's a song called Fest 89, and it's just like the funniest thing. It's about this big giant music festival where they just get girls on cages but it's the way it's told. It's just so crazy. And then, like I said, there's sort of this concept album within it, which is the whole idea of these sex packets, which I don't know. Genius. I don't know who pitched. Somebody was pitching this idea to the government to try to get these for NASA. So when they go, so basically they look like condoms, but it's like this. It's not like an aphrodisiac or anything, but it's actually, I mean, you take these pills and you have these visions. And like it's like virtual sex, but before there was actually VR or anything like that. But it's so specific. Like you could pick up one that says a black girl, white girl, and a Chinese girl, and that's the experience you have when you open these. But that whole little suite of this, there's sex packets and the Packet Man, and just it's hilarious. It's fun. It's crazy and. Yeah, I love it. It's like I said, they very much delve into like Funkadelic and Parliament and all that kind of stuff. So
their production's really good too.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, their production reminds me of De La Soul a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
So that's my number 5.
Well, my number 5 is when this dude came out, before this guy came out, all hip hop albums would have like one producer that would produce the whole project. But when this guy came out, he was the first guy to get all the top producers of the day to produce this project. And it's Nas Illmatic. That's my top 5. This album was amazing.
Number 1. A lot of people.
Most would. I mean, the album is amazing. Like every single song is a banger. This dude changed the game. He came out on this track by this group named Main Source called Live at the Barbecue.
Breaking Atoms.
Yeah, that album is amazing as well.
Yeah, not on it almost made my honorable mention, but not quite. But yeah, I love Breaking Atoms.
Breaking Atoms is so ahead of his time. And Nas was on that song, and he came out with this verse saying, when he was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus. And everybody's like, what the hell? You can say that? Like, that was groundbreaking, dude. Nobody ever said that in hip hop before. That was like, it shocked the world. So when he came out with his solo album, he completely changed the game. It's like basically one of the loudest MCs ever.
He has a hype man on this album that reminds me of Flavor Flav. I don't know who that guy is.
Well, he has a song with AZ on Life's a Bitch.
Is that like the opening track?
Well, the opening track has people kind of talking. It's like an intro.
It's the guy that's talking in the background there.
Yeah, it's like his boy. They're kind of like talking on the intro, but he only has one feature on the whole album. It's by AZ on the song called "Life's a Bitch."
You know what's crazy about Nas too is there's no gimmick. He's got no gimmick, like nothing.
No,
he just stands on talent, only talent.
And he was the first dude to ever come out with his baby picture on the album cover. Nobody ever did that before. His whole shit was original. Where?
Actually, did you know that he was 25 in that picture?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah. Wow, man. That's this. I have a feeling this won't be the last time we'll see this on lists today.
It can't be. He used to do.
All right, Gary, what's your top 5 gangster rap?
It's all albums you've never heard of. Don't worry.
I am. That was a great pick, Deacon, too. And Scott, both of you guys. All right, I have it written down, so I'm not messing up this time. My number 4, I will see your Nas and raise you one. Ice Cube.
Oh yes,
American
that was incredible.
This album is so good, produced by the Bomb Squad, right?
Oh yes, Public Enemy's Bomb Squad. Yes.
This album, I remember when it came out. For one, when this album came out, Public Enemy was really hot. Like they were like the group,
the hottest.
They were at their height, and then their production team came out with this, and I don't know if they had been working with many other artists, but I was like, how are they going to work with Ice Cube? And then when I heard it, I remember I heard it at my friend George's house in his room. I was like, oh my God, like the opening track. Oh my God.
Every song, yes.
So good, so good. Gary, I want you to read all the titles off of. Read every word.
I just have a feeling that's a bad idea. I don't know what they are. I'm just not going to do it.
So this album is just, there's so much energy on this album, and it's energy, it's frustration, it's anger, it has a lot of comedy in it.
Yes.
And he was still in. Wait, what? No, had he just left Public Enemy?
Yeah, he left NWA.
He had just left NWA. But this isn't like an angry album yet.
No, he didn't diss in the NWA. He didn't say one thing about him on this whole album.
Death Certificate.
Yeah, because NWA said something about him, and then.
Yeah. But the reason why and you know what's funny, Death Certificate was almost going to be on my list, but the reason I chose this one over that one is because this one was the album where he just planted his feet. You know what I mean? And it was new. Like the vibe of it was new, and you could just tell the excitement that he had for this project. Everyone had for it. The next album, he's pissed, because he had. Yeah, but this album is just such a unique, and sonically, it's very similar to Public Enemy, very similar. Yeah. But it did a great job, and this is my favorite Ice Cube album, personally.
That's a good choice. That's a good album. It's a great album.
Yeah. Oh, but the one thing that bugs me is that there's a typo on the front. America. I mean, you would think all of the money he has, he could hire.
Get that right.
Heavy-handed on that.
They didn't catch that. Nobody.
Yeah, it's embarrassing, but oh well. Yeah. Oh well. All right, Scott, you're up.
Okay. All right. So my number 4. When this album came out, gangster rap is kind of had taken hold, and it was a lot of what people were listening to and everything. And then this group came out, and it was like nothing I ever heard before. It was like the total antithesis of the gangster rap. And while a lot of people were rapping about like gold chains and carjacking and stuff, these guys came out and they were rapping about potholes in their lawn. You want to pull this
one up?
Shit. De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. So this was
my favorite group ever.
Yeah, this was just revolutionary for me. And this did introduce me to the whole native tongues, which included Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest. I don't know if some of those groups may or may not appear on my list.
KMD, Queen Latifah.
Oh yeah, KMD, and I didn't even realize that did you say KMD?
Yeah, MF Doom was in KMD.
Yeah. I knew KMD. I thought they kind of came out of like third base.
Yeah, they was. Because KMD was involved with the native tongue.
Which
okay,
is
that I wasn't sure of, but but so it just opened up this whole different kind of music, and it was almost like, it was weird because it was almost like fully formed, and I had never heard anything like this. And then first De La Soul came out, and I can't remember if Jungle Brothers came out.
Well, Jungle Brothers was first.
Were they? Okay.
Jungle Brothers first.
They probably I probably had to circle back around then, because I wasn't familiar with them until De La Soul hit and blew up. But and this thing is just, I mean, there are just so many, and a lot of the stuff you're going to find on my list is just heavy with samples. Back in the day when you could do tons of samples and it wasn't going to bankrupt. Well, they probably weren't even paying for some of them, but and they got in trouble. They were probably one of the first acts that kind of got in trouble from using as many samples as they did. But it was so varied. I mean, they would take Hall & Oates, they would take snippets from like Schoolhouse Rock and just all this different stuff. And what else? Like Steely Dan. It was just all this different music, and it was kind of like this whole, almost like this. Well, people kind of dubbed them like the hippie like rap, but I mean, they're just so great.
They were brave, a really brave group.
Yeah, beyond grave.
Yeah,
they was
accepted it too. People accepted it in a way I wasn't. I wouldn't have thought, because I loved it, but. And
everybody loved that album. Now with Platinum, it was so to the left. It was amazing. Yeah.
And then one of my favorite groups is Tribe Called Quest. Like I said, some of my groups, my favorite rappers and stuff, didn't make this list because this was the starting point of all that. My introduction to songs and all that kind of stuff. But so that's my number 4 pick, 3 Feet High.
Wow, that's an amazing choice, man. It's our favorite group ever. Well, our number 4 is kind of like it was the birth of those albums to me, and this was the group that started it all to me, man. It was one of the best groups ever in the history of hip-hop. It's Public Enemy. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. This album changed the game, man. Like, first they came out with their first album, Yo Bum Rush the Show, but when they came out with this album produced by the Bomb Squad with all the samples and the changes and the ill sounds, and with Terminator X, and you had Flavor Flav, you had the S1Ws, it was just like, what? Like,
one of the greatest songs ever in hip hop, ever. Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos.
Oh my God, that's why this album made my list. Just that album, that song alone, it's just like, are you kidding me? That song was this group. I get chills just thinking about like Public Enemy.
So good. This was my intro to Public Enemy.
I had it on cassette and I wore it out.
Me too. Yeah,
I love Public Enemy.
I used to play.
I'm one of the people that I really love it. I really love Yo Bum Rush the Show, even though they didn't really start to find their kind of political voice until this album here, It Takes a Nation of Millions. But I still like their first album too.
Yeah, Bum Rush the Show was amazing. Yeah. Like, I didn't think it could get no better. And then when they came with this, I was just like, what? But Rebel Without a Cause.
This changed all music, I believe, all popular music. This album actually changed music. People don't even know, but it did, because it was groundbreaking. Nothing had been done anywhere near this before.
And albums changed, even hip hop albums. And when Ice Cube came out, like after this, everything changed after this album.
And I think it had a lot of crossover appeal to, I think, the punk rock crowd too, because it was definitely
it was really
thumbs up. I mean, fingers up to the authority and everything. And so I know a lot, because I had a lot of friends that were into punk and they like Public Enemy.
It's like a lot of metalheads like Public Enemy too. It was almost like a black punk group almost.
Yeah.
It was like a hip hop punk album.
Yeah, this is a great album. Oh man, I'll have more comment on that later. Spoiler alert: I didn't pick this one and I'll tell you why later, because we only can put one album per group. But this is a masterpiece. Yeah, I like it.
I know what your pick is.
All right, great pick. All right, my number 3. By the way, Gary, the way you feel right now is the way I feel when Josh and Corey talk about Charles Bukowski.
I think it's a little bit how you felt when I was talking about some of my arcade game picks. I think that was the read I got.
Well, I played arcade games. You've never played hip hop. So. All right. So my number 3. Okay. My number 3 in sick ways, this could be my number 1. Could have been my number 1. because out of just pure joy of listening to it, this could have been my favorite album, hip hop album.
Wow.
And I'm gonna say something here super sacrilegious. That this artist here is my James Michael Lujan, my favorite rapper. You know,
we have the same middle name, Jim.
People have, you know, it's not Tupac, it's not Biggie, but mine is Kelvin Broadus.
Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Doggy style. I love Snoop.
Wow.
This era of Snoop, I love. And it's because I identify with it because of my personal life experience. And no, it has like one of the most ghastly covers, man. That is high school right there.
It was so like G-Funk.
It was like not, they did not hire an Apple artist.
That cover is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought there were some great covers already, but that.
Snoop, his delivery and his voice.
His style, man. That was one of those that came out and was like, I'd never heard anyone
he
rap
is
like
a
this
master.
before.
And over the years, now there's another artist that's on my list that ties for first, and he's on his way soon. But Snoop Dogg, just and also being from the West Coast,
exactly
epitomizes the laid back but sinisterness of the West Coast. It's just such a great snapshot. Unforgiving, unapologetic. It's got all the best and the worst that you'd expect, but he's just a genius. Snoop Dogg is a genius. Delivery and the rhymes that he comes up with, and he even gets so bold as to take one of the greatest East Coast classics of all time.
He was the first rapper to ever make a remake of a rap song ever.
And in my opinion, I think he does it better.
Yeah, you think so? Oh,
I do. But that's because I love the man, and I'm a big fan of his. But to be honest, this was, in my opinion, his peak. And I know it's really early on, but this is the era that I like the most. He's done some great stuff, and he still continues to do great stuff. But this right here was his Sgt. Pepper's, his moment. It was his moment to shine, and it really was somebody going to the plate and hitting a grand slam. Not only hitting a grand slam,
he was rapper on the planet when that came out.
He went in the dugout with the bat, and he just started hitting the other team too. He went crazy. So good. His voice is so good on this. So, and the production's great too. So that is my number 3.
Good choice.
Thank you.
All right. So my number 3. So this is a group that had a huge. I guess most people consider it their debut album, although they did have another album that was in another genre of music, and I think an EP before this. But they had this huge, massive debut album, and everyone was waiting to see what the sophomore album was going to be when it came out. And when it hit, and there were a lot of people who were disappointed. I wasn't disappointed. I dug it. I thought it was great ever since the beginning. It took a long time for it to kind of get the respect it deserved, but you want to pull it up, Gary? Second time on the top 5. Yeah, I love this thing. I remember, like, my friend and I, we would DJ and stuff, and we would buy records together. We kind of split up our collection and stuff like that. And unfortunately, we're still good friends today, but he had half of the collection, and I think his ex-wife got rid of it or something. But he had a lot of these albums, and he had this one. And I remember when we first got it, I had the cassette. He had the album. But this thing, it unfolded and folded. It was like a gatefold. It must have unfolded about 10 times. Yeah.
And like
it was
completely covered you around, like 360.
Yeah. It was this panoramic shot of what you're kind of seeing here. And that's just the album art. But I mean, this whole thing was just, I had so much respect for them because they could have easily just did a clone of Licensed to Ill because it was so popular, and that's what people expected. They left their record company. They left probably the best producer if not in hip hop, but in
Rick Rubin.
music, period.
Yeah,
Went
yeah.
with another producer and then put this thing out. And this thing, again, a lot of the stuff that I have is heavy on samples. This thing is like, there's so many samples.
Yeah.
After samples.
The Dust Brothers produced that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's just, I mean, there's just so many great tracks on here. I think my favorite, it was never released as a single. My favorite is Car Thief. Just that.
That's
It was
a good one.
Public Enemy kind of did some of that stuff too. But
This
this
one has my all-time favorite Beastie Boys song on it.
which one?
High Plains Drifter.
Yeah, I was
That's
just
a good
going
one,
to say
too.
that.
That one kind of. There's a
of.
couple of songs. I think "Hey Ladies," "High Plains Drifter." There's a couple of songs that kind of still had that flavor from "License to Ill."
Yeah, High Plains
I
Drifter.
think "High Plains Drifter" kind of reminds me a little bit of
Paul Revere. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that, but there's so much more. And just like, and this was kind of, like I said, when it wasn't received well in the beginning, but it's the reason Beastie Boys still are around today. Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, rest in peace MCA. But I mean, if they continued down doing the same kind of stuff that they did with License to Ill, they would have been a flash.
Oh, they would have
band.
faded out.
And
Yeah.
they kind of had to have this one album to kind of tank in a way before they, before people started, appreciating it, and they kind of came back and just continued on. But I just love this album. I mean, this is one that all these albums that are on my list, I just put on all the time, and it's just.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Amazing. That album was amazing.
Good pick. Good pick.
Good pick. All right, my third pick. This album was the birth of the most notorious hip hop label in the history of the world. It kicked down the doors for everything gangster. It's Dr. Dre's The Chronic.
Yeah.
This album, every single song is amazing. It was no joke because he wasn't all the way G-Funk. He was still like sample heavy and still like some East Coast vibe in there. And it was hard and banging. It introduced Snoop Dogg, Lady of Rage, the Dog Pound. It just started everything. It kickstarted the whole Death Row. It was just
you were on the East Coast when this album came out, right?
yeah.
So what was the reaction to it when it came out?
Everybody loved it.
Wow.
When that album came out, you couldn't go down the street without hearing it pass in cars in Cleveland. Every single car that passed was bumping The Chronic.
Wow.
Everybody. Everybody was bumping this album, man. Literally.
And it was on radio and MTV
It
too.
was on everything. Because the video was killing with everything with the one. The song there, and they had the barbecue, and everybody's like, what is this? And Dr. Dre had just left NWA, and he broke on his own. And then he hooked up with Snoop Dogg. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
This album was no joke, man.
So when this album first came out, I'm so stupid that I thought that cover was he was supposed to be like a captain on a ship. I didn't know that you could take the cover and roll it up into a big.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know that either. That shows how ignorant I am.
It's not Gilligan's Island. Yeah. Do you have a favorite song on this album? You can.
Wow, the favorite song in this album. That's a good choice. What would be? A good.
Nothing But a G Thing is like the Stairway to Heaven. We've heard it so many times, but it's so good though. It's hard to beat.
I think my favorite song would be High Powered.
Okay.
I'm high powered. Where you got the big I drop bombs like Hiroshima.
Okay.
It's like a mellow song. It's
yeah. Oh, also this album changed. Talking about changing hip hop. This album turned the tempo of hip hop down a few notches.
Yeah.
And Public Enemy had boosted it.
It was really fast. It was like fast.
High
It's
energy,
like
and
coming down low.
And it was like, and it was like,
Who was the first group that actually turned down the tempo in hip hop? EPMD.
EPMD?
That first album, Strictly Business, was the first record to go slower. Like if you listen to all the other albums, it was up tempo, it was really the dancing, it was kind of going fast, early 90s. But when EPMD broke, with You Got to Chill.
Oh yeah.
Boom, boom. Everything slowed down. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this is a great pick. There's a lot of songs on this album too.
Every song on there is amazing.
Yeah, and it's got the hits too.
The hits. Like I picked these albums that I can literally just put it on and just clean up or go about the apartment and everything. I can just listen to every single song.
So do you think the whole East Coast, West Coast thing was, I know that it was started by a series of events and a series of characters, but in general, do you think it could have been started and the flames arose a little bit because remember when it happened is when the West Coast came up.
Yeah.
That's when it started. Do you think it was because the East Coast had dominated everything?
For so long.
Do you think it was like a jealousy mixed with cockiness from the West Coast mixed with personal things going on, you know?
The East Coast definitely had a cocky attitude because they were the birthplace of hip hop. But as soon as NWA hit the scene, it was the West Coast, and the West Coast took over pretty much, starting with NWA. But when this album came out, yeah, man, they took over.
Earlier, Scott Serkman told me that John Stamos started the East Coast, West Coast war. So I believed him when he told me, but I'm kind of going with what you say. So that freaking Stamos. Do it, Gary. Full house. Do it.
I'm not doing it.
Well,
You know what? I have a hip hop 101 question, and I'm fine playing the idiot tonight. That's something I've always wondered. So does East Coast and West Coast have a different sound? Like if you didn't know who it was from and you just heard, like I played the track, would you say like, oh, that's one or the other? And could you explain what the difference is?
Now, I don't think there's much of a difference, but back in the 90s, yes.
And there's groups from all over. Back in the day, it was all East Coast and then some West Coast, and then there was nothing else. Every once in a while, a group would pop in from somebody somewhere else. But now it's kind of opened up all over the place.
Until Atlanta happened.
West Coast mainly had like a G-funk kind of vibe, but the East Coast was more of a boom bap, more jazz influence. Like
you could break dance to East Coast, and you could barbecue to West Coast.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
okay, I got it.
Yeah, and don't do both at the same time. It's dangerous.
Could be a fire hazard. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me clear my head of John Stamos and his gangster war. All right. So, my number 2. Okay, now I know earlier I said that Snoop Dogg, in my opinion, was the best rapper ever. But let me rephrase that. Snoop Dogg is my favorite rapper ever. In my personal opinion, favorite. But in my opinion, which is really deeply respected across the hip hop community of West Covina, my favorite rapper of all time is this man, half of this group.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
My favorite rapper too, Rakim.
Yes, the greatest rapper.
I believe Rakim is just the most forceful and has the smoothest and most. It's smooth, but it's powerful. His voice, it's just, and his delivery.
His lyric. I mean, he's the best lyricist.
Insane.
Well,
and he's
people might argue Nas. A lot of people might argue Nas, but I say Rakim still.
Yeah, Rakim.
Lyrically.
Just the lyrics and Follow the Leader was just what?
I think Nas has the skills, but as far as vocal persona, I think Rakim has it. His voice will his voice will make you just give up the fight. Like, all right, man.
Yeah.
His voice is just so confident. And just great delivery, great lyrics. And I know a lot of the criticisms of Eric B. and Rakim was that it was always, they never progressed. It was always the same. But for what it was, and then this particular album, I know I didn't pick Paid in Full, which is their most famous, popular album.
Yeah.
This album, because much like the White Album by the Beatles, which was recorded in turmoil, I believe this album was kind of recorded in turmoil. I think at this album, Eric B. was Rakim was kind of like, come on, Eric, let's do something new. And there was some behind the scenes stuff going on, but the product came out so good. There's such a tension, and it's got a lyric in it. It says, no time to do your hair, baby. It's so good. It's the first time I ever heard him call a female Miss Fifi. It's just so good. It's just so good. And the title track, Let the Rhythm Hit Him.
Oh my God, one of the hardest songs.
I love the version on the album isn't the best version. The radio version, I think, in my opinion, is a little better.
Of Let the Rhythm Hit Him?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that's on the video and the one it's different from the one on the album. If I remember correctly, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
You're not thinking of the CNC Music Factory version.
no.
Okay. You know what? This album's so powerful that if you play this in an old folks' home, there will be fistfights. People will just start knocking each other out of the wall. It's just this album. It doesn't have an energy about it.
It's great. Yeah, I always thought that. I don't know if I should say this based on some of my picks coming up.
You kill somebody.
Mentions, but I always thought their albums got a little better. Even most people don't really care as much for their last album. Don't Sweat the Technique, but I love that album too. I love all.
Oh, that was great.
No, that's good too.
But they're to me, I don't know. There's especially like my favorite song of all time. My favorite rap song of all time is probably Microphone Fiend. But I don't think Follow the Leader. I think it had some filler, and honestly, a lot of this just Eric B. just cutting and doing a whole song. I mean, sometimes I'll skip through that. So that's kind of why some of their albums aren't on my list.
The opening track just grabbed me by my collar on this song, and I'm like, whoa! But the track that really made me fall in love with this album, like, wow, this is one of the greatest albums ever. Is Mahogany.
Yes, that song. The beat is so good.
Yeah. It's the lyrics on that are just. It is like honey. It's so good. So good, and you talk to a lot of rappers, and they'll tell you their favorite rapper is Rakim.
He's mine. He's not a rapper, but he's mine.
Yeah,
he changed the game because before Rakim, it was a lot of hit the hop, the hip it. It was more of that kind of style. When Rakim broke down just how people flow today, he changed the way people rap. Yeah,
he's just amazing. So like Nas has the talent and just straight up talent, but Rakim has the persona. Like,
this is the
game. You don't hear much about him in mainstream either. I don't know why.
No, but all the rappers, real rappers, he's like the favorite rapper's rapper.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to Eric B. because he did all the music too. So
the group was amazing.
And I don't care for Rakim's solo stuff as much as I do the stuff that he did with Eric.
There's a reason,
Even though sometimes, like I said, I'll skip through the Eric B. solo stuff.
Yeah. So, but good choice, Jim. Oh wait.
Yes, it is. That's amazing.
All right.
Okay. All right. So my number 2 pick. This is another one of those groups that came out when I first heard it, and like Jim just mentioned, I love Rakim. I love that. I don't like stuff like, I'm not big into like DMX and the stuff that's like loud and yell. I mean, I'll make an exception for Chuck D, but I like real smooth rappers. These guys came out. This stuff was just so smooth. I don't even know how to explain it. There's just a vibe to this album that I just put on, and it's almost like there's not a lot of variation between the tracks, but it's just like one cool long vibe. And this thing came out, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome. I love it.
Can we guess?
And I listened. What's that?
Can we guess? Give us a hint.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, give us a hint. I want another hint.
They've already been mentioned once. This album's been mentioned kind of once.
Alanis Morissette. Tori Amos.
All right. So Deacon knows what I'm talking about. You want to pull it up?
Wait, do you know?
Oh,
EPMD Strictly Business.
Yes, EPMD. Yes.
I love this album. It is just the cool. I don't know, man. It's just like it was just different. And from what I understand, they kind of came from like suburbia. These 2 guys.
They were more
Terry Smith and Eric Sermon.
I'm not that familiar. You guys are gonna have to educate me on.
You gotta hear.
I only know
EPMD. It's
wait, it's EPMD or Epidem?
It stands for Eric and Parrish Making Dollars.
Yeah.
So, but this album and so it's Strictly Business, and then they followed up with Unfinished Business, and every single, unlike what I was saying about Rakim and Eric B. and Rakim, I think each one of EPMD's records got a little bit worse as it went on, to the point where my friends and I were joking that their next albums are going to be called Out of Business, because it was Unfinished Business as usual, and we said next one's going to be Out of Business, and they actually did come out with an album called Out of Business. And then they came back in business. But no, this album, you know, they've got some good songs on some of their other albums, but this whole album here is solid, and they were never really able to duplicate this, in my opinion. This is just got a vibe all to itself, and I don't know too much else that really sounds this way. It's a lot of kind of drum machines, but it's just the way it's put together. There's a lot of samples too, but just the vibe is just very smooth, mellow,
but just bumping. It just bumps.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
You got Jim. If you're not familiar
with
this album,
I'm gonna listen to it.
Yeah. You got to. EPMD is like one of the greatest rap groups in the history of the game ever.
Yeah.
For real. Wow, man, that was a good choice, man. That group is insane. All right, my number 2 to me is one of the greatest hip hop groups ever, and they were part of the greatest collective ever. And like it was so ahead of its time. This was literally on some black hippie kind of shit. And it's A Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
Low End Theory.
Yep.
Yeah.
This album, every single song was just banging. The first album they came out, People's Distinctive Travels. But when they came with this album, it was like, what is going on? Like, they passed everybody because you had Jungle Brothers, then De La Soul broke. Then Tribe Called Quest was kind of, you know, back in the third. And then when Tribe Called Quest came with this album, they just surpassed everybody. They were like, we're about to take over the game. This album was hands down one of the greatest albums ever.
Also, the best album cover of the night.
Right? Look at that album.
Yeah, that's a poster.
I saw somebody selling a jacket online that was the green and red stripes like that. I'm like, I might have to get that. It's a little flashy for me, but I was like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, this is I love, you know, again, I was debating, I was like Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. I probably like Tribe Called Quest as a band better, but I just because my introduction was De La Soul's why I put them on the list, but love Tribe Called Quest.
This is a lot of people's favorite album.
Five, rest in peace.
Oh yeah, man. It's almost like a throw up. Their first 3 albums were just all incredible to me.
Yeah.
Because right after this, they came out with Midnight Marauder, and but this album, oh my God! But this album, it was something special. It was like high school. This was high school to me, man. All day. This was a night.
Does a Tribe Called Quest? Do they use the same producers on every album, or they have
actually Q-Tip produces all of Tribe Called Quest music?
Really?
And I didn't know that at first because he used to give credit to the whole group. But Q-Tip produces all of the Tribe Called Quest music. Q-Tip.
Oh wow! I didn't.
Yeah, because they came out with a whole documentary about it, produced by David Rappaport, and they break the whole shit down. The whole thing.
I saw that documentary. That was great.
Yeah, it was amazing, and they broke it all the way down. You know, and their last album, right before when Phife died, and it came out, is amazing too. Their last album that just came out was amazing. Tribe Called Quest is definitely one of the greatest. And they inspired everybody, like from Pharrell and Kanye West, and they were all children of Q-Tip.
Yeah, and what a great voice Q-Tip has too.
And he's another one that just has that really cool original sound, like the voice. I mean, even the lyrics aside, which are great, but just the voice, he's just got a great voice.
Q-Tip.
Oh yeah, he just flows.
It's like Q-Tip gets in your ear.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can't remember ever saying that, but that'd be
What's Q-Tip's real name? Does anybody know? For 10 points.
I don't know.
I think it's Jamal something.
I think it's Quentin Tip.
Jamal. Quentin Tip. Quentin Tip.
Oh my God! So I have a feeling that's a lot of people's number 1 album. I hear that a lot from people. I
think a lot of Deacon's pick, all his picks so far would definitely be on the top of most people's top list.
Yeah. But all right, shall we go to number 1s now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Am I up?
You're up.
I only have one word. Okay, I had to pick this album from this group because I couldn't pick multiple, because this group would actually probably have 2 albums in my top 5. But there's only one word to describe this group, and when I point, you play them. And that word to me is Beatles.
Yeah.
Yes.
This group is the Beatles of hip hop.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%, without a doubt. And to me, This is it's their biggest selling album, probably, I would think.
Yeah.
This
So
is
like 1 million the first week.
oh my God, at the height. And if you remember, was it It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back was right before that? Was the one
Yeah.
before this?
Yeah.
There was such a buildup. Remember, there was anticipation.
Oh,
for this
yeah.
album. And then when it came out, the cassette came out, in the record stores, there was like an excitement, like people couldn't wait to get it home or couldn't wait, and there were leaks from it. I had never heard a leak before, and
That's crazy, man.
this album, and it's so good, every single track on it, and it just continued the excitement from the first two albums, but with a really high dollar production value, because you can tell this album cost a lot to make, but it is like a sci-fi epic. It's just incredible.
It's kind of like the culmination of those first two albums. They were just fun, and it all came together in this one.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they're, there was no other group like them. I mean, the whole kind of militant vibe, with the S1Ws. I mean, they had that whole theatrics and production and everything, and Chuck D. And I know my opinions was kind of all over the place with Flavor Flav. Sometimes I feel like he doesn't fit into that mold, but sometimes I don't know.
Without him,
it doesn't work, because without him, he's too serious. He's too serious without him.
Sugar.
It's such an odd thing, but it all works somehow. It all works.
Also, you know what's amazing, and people don't talk about this that much, is Chuck D carried Public Enemy on his shoulders, but he's so non-Hollywood, but so just laid back in the background, just content to be, he doesn't want to be a superstar, with glitter on stage.
Right.
Exactly.
He's unassuming, but he carried this group is Chuck D. It is Chuck D.
No doubt.
Yeah, and it was his vision too.
It's his vision. He used to make.
When they signed to Def Jam, they didn't want to have Flavor Flav. They didn't want to have all the S1Ws, and Chuck D was like, "No, if you don't have this, I'm not doing it."
Right.
He forced me. He was like, "This is the group vision."
I heard a story that he used to make mixtapes, like when I don't know if it was Show 'Em What You Got, or one of those songs was based on his little cassette. He would take a cassette and do these little mixes that sounded like, and he put sound effects and he'd send them into this radio station. They would play them, and then
he had his own radio station. Him, Flavor Flav, they had their own radio show.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then that's how they ended up getting the deal, because Run DMC came in to get an interview on the air, and they would always play at the beginning of the radio show. They would play their Public Enemy song at the beginning, and then they were like, "Who is this?" And Run played it for Russell, and that's how they got the deal.
So what was really cool about Public Enemy too is, like, NWA were, they relished being the bad boys, but Public Enemy wasn't the bad boys because necessarily their behavior at first. Flavor Flav got into some stuff, and Sister Soulja, and but Public Enemy were the bad boy because of their message, and their message scared a lot of people.
The title says it. The title says
exactly.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, and to me that was the beauty of it. It was just that they put it out there and they didn't water it down. And I know 1 Million Bottle Bags. I don't think that's on. It might be on this album, but it might not. But that's a perfect example of a. And here's another thing that was great about Public Enemy, and is great about Public Enemy and Chuck D, is that they will say things that will upset their own community.
Yeah.
They just speak their truth.
They speak the truth. Yeah.
And it could upset fellow rappers, or it could obviously upset politicians, or upset media, or upset people within their own group.
They upset my state, which was definitely warranted back in that. Yeah,
but
by the time we get to Arizona.
Yeah, so
a lot of white kids and college kids love Public Enemy.
Oh yeah.
They were that group that crossed over. Like, everybody loved them.
I saw them open for U2 one time.
Wow, that's crazy.
They were great, and they were really great. So to me, they are the Beatles of rap, of hip hop. They really are that groundbreaking and that good. And there's multiple different personalities in the group, and they're that unique. and they're my favorite group. But I picked this album because I couldn't pick the other. I couldn't pick two.
Yeah,
that's true. Because they got like about 2 or 3 that could be on.
And I, if you're gonna go listen on Spotify, bless you. If you're gonna go listen on Spotify, go listen to a song called "By the Time I Get to Arizona."
Yes, that song is
one of the greatest. That's one of my favorite songs. Period. Like of any kind.
Yes.
Go check that song out.
That song is amazing.
That's a great song. So that's my number one.
That was a great number one pick.
All right, now you're up, Scott.
Okay, all right. This is kind of be a surprise. Okay, so this is a group that most people don't even know about. This is a group that they had one album. It hit, and it kind of bombed, and it wasn't, but this is the album that I listened to the most. It's the album that I evangelized because it's so great. It was so ahead of its time. It never got its due. Like I said, most people don't even know this group or know this album, but it is absolutely my favorite hip hop album. And it's not like an independent album. They were on a major label, probably the biggest rap label there was. And for whatever reason, I honestly think it was just ahead of its time because I can listen to it today and it still sounds just as fresh and just as good. So if you guys aren't familiar with this group, Downtown Science.
Oh yeah, I'm at the Downtown
Science.
That's dope.
This thing, it is, the name says it all. It's the name is exactly what it is. I mean, the lyrics are super intelligent. So there's a rapper and the producer / DJ. The production on this thing is just amazing, sample wise, everything. Every single song is original onto itself. When you hear one song, when the next song comes on, it's a different song. It is, and there's so many different flavors on here. So many different. Bosco Money's the rapper, and every song has its kind of its own delivery to it. And I just wish this album got more love because it really is. I mean, there's a song the first single that came out. Like I said, most people don't even know the single because it wasn't huge, but they had the video on MTV and stuff. It's called Radioactive, and it's basically it encapsulates how a rhyme is formed, how it gets from the mind onto paper, how it gets recorded and travels through the airwaves in super technical terms. You got to hear, like, Radioactive is great, but there's so many different vibes and flavors on this album. Like I said, everything's different. There's one that's just like total kind of freestyle, but there's a lot of samples, stuff you wouldn't hear. Like, you'll hear sounds on this that especially for 1991 when this came out.
I'm curious.
You gotta check. Yeah. And it might be hard to find. I mean, the streaming service that I have, it's not even on there. I did see it on YouTube, but I've got kind of an obscure streaming service, so hopefully you can find it. But if not, it is on YouTube. But I mean, if you've heard it before, like Deacon, you sound like you're familiar with it.
Yeah,
give it a listen again because it is so.
Yeah, I need to pull it up again.
It is so and Jim, anyone that's watching this that's not familiar with this, you've got to look. It's so ahead of its time. It's just for every song is just fresh and different, and the lyrics. I mean, I would put, like, Bosco Money isn't the rapper that Rakim is, but lyrically, as far as Rakim's got these super intelligent, super deep, super well constructed lyrics, and his are close. I mean, and then the production, Sam Sever, who he kind of came from, he produced Third Base's album, Practice album, and then they formed, and like I said, it kind of bombed, and they kind of disbanded after that. They only had the one album, but Sam Sever produced the entire album? Yeah, that's the white guy, Sam Sever. Yeah, he produced his whole album? Oh, that's dope. Yeah, he was a great producer.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Zoom in. That's Scott.
But no, seriously, if you guys haven't heard it, give it a listen and tell me what you think, because I love introducing people to this album.
Hey, if somebody loves something so much.
Corey Krs says it's on Spotify. He'll be listening tonight.
When somebody loves a movie so much and they're so passionate about it, or a book like that, it does make you, like, when I listen to this, I will listen to it with closer.
Yeah, so please tell me what you think. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But It's
I'll call
awesome.
you at 3 a.m.
I just wish it got more love because it's again, it's my favorite album.
I'm going to check it out.
And the fact that it was on their Def Jam, the fact that somehow this fell through the cracks.
How did you hear? How did you find out about it, Scott?
My first introduction was the single "Radioactive." I saw the video, and back then I would buy albums that I hadn't even heard of, and just because if it looked like a hip, I once bought New Kids on the Block because it looked like they were a white hip hop group. I'm like, because they're all standing like this, and so I bought it, and I'm like, this might like a hip hop group. So I would just buy. I'd go to Tower Records and just buy stuff that I hadn't even heard before. And so, but and it, honestly, well, no, it wasn't even that. I would mind say if sometimes as a white guy, if you see other white rappers, you're like, okay, let's see how this sounds because we need something more.
That's exactly the same reason I picked Frankie Goes to Hollywood that one time.
but yeah, please check it out if you haven't.
I will.
I gotta pull that back up again.
Yeah.
I didn't know Sam Sever produced the whole record.
Oh, yeah.
He was a great producer.
So what's the guy's name?
Sam Sever.
So solid. Sam Sever, yeah.
Is the producer.
Sever, like a severed arm?
Yeah, like he's a DJ, Sever. Cutting.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
What's a DJ? Okay. No, by the way, maybe if they not to bash the album, but maybe if they repackaged it a little, it might. And I'm serious. It might attract.
It's not. A lot of rap albums, it's got them in front of a car with gold chains. These guys aren't about all that, and they're not about like native tongue stuff either. It's about like when you hear the term dropping science, this is the epitome of that.
Well, they're obviously
that's what they do.
So
that's what they do. Yeah.
They obviously took this on their lunch break at working for the internet company. No, I'm going to check this out. And you said Radioactive was a single?
Yeah, wow. Radioactive and Room to Breathe were the two singles. But every song,
Room to Breathe.
I'm very impressed that this is.
But every song bangs. Just listen to it.
All right, I can't wait. All right.
All right, you guys. This is my favorite rap group to ever exist, ever. The most original, the most groundbreaking hip hop group to ever exist. This album was so advanced, it was just beyond numbers. It's De La Soul is dead.
Oh yeah, okay.
This album right here, man, it was a storybook. It was literally a storybook where when they say when you hear the doom, you turn the page. It was a storybook album that was all connected. It was like, are you kidding me? This album, man.
Deacon, isn't this the album they did to kind of shake because like the movement that they kind of started?
Exactly. They were like just shitting on their own shit. They was like, okay, everybody were calling them hippies. You're all hippies. They're just like, De La Soul was dead. They just broke their whole movement because they kept rolling with the hippie stuff. Everybody was on it. And just, no, we're going to flip it and take it over here. And this
Ring is my favorite De La Soul song. Yeah, I love it.
De La Soul.
The roller skate song. I don't know if it's called the roller skate song, but whatever it's called.
With Q-Tip on there.
Oh, yeah.
This whole album, man. Biggie's at the BK Lounge. Like, their style is so advanced, man. De La Soul, to me, is when I heard De La Soul when they first came out, I didn't know rap could do that. I didn't know you could be yourself in rap. I thought it was all had to be a persona. You had to be this, you had to be that. They were just like some nerdy kind of kids. Like, this is what we are. And for me, it changed my whole outlook on life. Yeah. Wow, so like, wow, you can be yourself.
After 3 Foot High and Rising, this one, like that.
Yeah, this was the second album. Yeah,
shook up everything for you.
Well, 3 Feet High and Rising shook up everything. It just changed my life because I was a young kid. I was like 6th grade, like going into 5th grade, going into 6th, and I was just like, "What's this?" I didn't really know who I was, and when I heard that, I was like, I just knew to be myself. It literally changed my outlook on life. De La Soul.
To what Beastie Boys did with Paul's Boutique, where they totally just put aside their whole persona and
like we're gonna go here. That's so bold and brave to do. Yeah. And this is when the line of hip hop was drawn, because this was the year that this album came out, and just before it had a chance to really take off and influence the world, Niggas for Life came out, and that's when the line said the whole world kind of went gangster rap. It was like it was a line because it was going to be so eclectic and so weird, and everybody's going to start experimenting. But when Gangster NWA came out, album, it was a wrap.
Dr. Dre and Doggy Style and Chronic and all that came out all.
That was after.
That was like 93, 94?
Yeah, that was after. Yep.
Okay.
Because
so NWA changed the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did. They completely changed the game because it wasn't because of them. It's that everybody else tried to be like them. So everybody tried to make gangster rap. Everybody did the gangster music instead of just making ill with hip hop. I mean, hip hop was getting real bugged out around this time.
It's such an interesting topic. You and I talked about.
Yeah, man.
About how on one hand it's great, but on the other hand, it's like it can pigeonhole,
Exactly. Everybody's just outlook, like I said, De La Soul changed my outlook, man. Like it opened me up to just start to be myself and unique and weird and not feel embarrassed by liking unique and weird things, And that's what this music was starting to do for a lot of my friends. It all like changed their way we all thought.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to NWA. NWA changed a lot of people just to be gangster rap. And it's like, I came from Cleveland Heights, like the Heights, where it was like, like basically a suburb. It was like 50% white, 50% black. And we were just all kind of suburb kids. But when NWA came out, everybody wanted to be down the way hood kids, It went from everybody wanted to be gang members and everybody wanted to be we're the gangster guys. It's like, dude, you're not a gangster. You're from the Heights. You're a suburban kid. Like, stop trying to front.
Yeah.
You can tell that's
ruined
why
neighborhoods. It ruined everybody. Everybody wanted to be this thing that nobody really was. Not even NWA was.
Even MC Hammer did a gangster rap album.
Right? He even did a gangster rap album.
Yeah.
That's why you notice a lot of the stuff on my list, it kind of dies after 1991 because, there's some gangster stuff I like. And I did have NWA's first album and all that stuff, but I don't know. It didn't speak to me as much because I didn't want to just front and be like, okay, yeah, now I'm a gangster.
Exactly, man.
So,
I love Westerns, but everything can't be a Western. You need variety.
Come on, you do, man. You do. Yeah. There's some really great gangster music made. NWA, the Ghetto Boys, it keep going and on. But I'm more of an East Coast, bugged out, abstract, De La Soul, Gangstar, Tribe Called Quest, that kind of. And if it's going to be gangster music, I like more like Wu-Tang, Mobb Deep, more East Coast gangster.
Yeah. Oh my God. Let's look at our Bravo on everyone's number one.
Oh yeah, everybody had great list.
Yeah, but now we're going to get into some honorable mentions and actually before we do that, I want to read our good friend Josh Kremble, aka Josh Kemble.
That's his rap name, Trimble, the Trimble.
He sent me his top 5, and I'll just read them real quick. And I thought this might be on somebody else's, this first one. Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers.
Oh, yes.
I knew that would be on Josh.
A Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory. I knew that. Gangstar, Moment of Truth.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love Guru's Jazzmatazz, too. Those 2 Jazzmatazz albums that Guru did.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. EPMD and Gangstar, I know of them, but I don't know their catalog.
Gangstar is the shit.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, nobody mentioned X-Clan today.
No, because they almost made my list, but it was like it had to be I'm only making songs that every single song I would love,
Yeah, I like X-Clan, but every time I listen to X-Clan, I'm like, well, I'd rather listen to Public Enemy.
X-Clan is pretty incredible. They had a movement there. They had an ill movement too.
All right, check out. We got one that's in the 2000s now. Josh also mentioned. I'll go this other one first.
I can say what it is.
Nas Illmatic. He mentioned that.
Illmatic, yeah.
I'm telling you, man, Nas is just no frills, just so good. Okay, and I think his number 1, maybe. I don't know if this is his number 1, but Kendrick Lamar. Mad City.
Yeah, that was a great album. Kendrick Lamar is like the best artist nowadays. He's the best artist out now.
That's from DJ Kremble. I also have Corey Krs top 5. Corey Krs top 5. It's all I'm just gonna read this. It's all the same group. It's just number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 2 live crew. Good choice, Corey. Yeah. And but I'm going to mention my honorable mentions now, if we shall. Here we go. Death certificate by Ice Cube. Very
amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
the Chronic, Dr. Dre. I had to put the Chronic by
Yes.
Dr. Dre on because that's like, I know Jay-Z has an album called The Blueprint, but this is actually the blueprint, at least the West Coast blueprint for a hit album. It was just a hit. No pun intended, Gary. The Chronic hit. Okay. Gary's going like that right now. I saw him. All right. Here's a weird selection, and I thought, will a hardcore hip hop fan laugh me off the stage for this? But Speaker Box and the Love.
I love that album.
Great.
I love Outkast. I absolutely.
Especially the Love Below part of the album.
Yeah.
Andre 2000 album.
I like them so much that I named them a wee cast. So, but the Love Below is the Missing Prince album too.
Yes.
That album, they just went balls out crazy. Like, we'll do whatever we want.
Yes.
The record company has no say.
Because all their albums were so big sellers, you just let them do what they want.
And
they each did basically their own album, right? Because at that point they weren't really digging each other, if I'm correct, right?
So they just kind of that album too. I think this was their goodbye album.
That was their last album. That was the last record.
Yeah. Okay. Now here's another one. I love this album, Donda by Kanye West.
Kanye West.
You know why? And I know that there's other Kanye West albums that are considered better and this and that. Here's why. Because his mom died. And this album is there's such a deep sadness on this album. And you guys you'll know what I mean by this. Sometimes when you're that sad, something makes you that sad, it turns into anger.
Yeah.
And this album has an anger on it. This album is really Kanye West it's like his emotional ride. It really is. The whole album starts with like 5 minutes of his mom going, or somebody saying, Donda, Donda, Donda,
Yeah.
Donda. And I'm just picturing him there hitting the button over and over, in the darkness, it's just an album. It reminds me of an album with mourning. Like, he's mourning his mother, but at the same time, he's got that sick anger that makes him act sort of like an idiot on part of the album. It's just really deep. I don't know. I really like that album. I know that a lot of people pick College Dropout by him or My Dark Twisted Fantasy and things like that. I think they're great. I actually also like 808.
808 Heartbreaks.
Yeah, and Heartbreak. That's actually probably one of my favorite albums, too. Okay, and lastly, but Daylight counterclockwise. What?
Oh shit! Thank you, Jim. I'm honored.
Tell us about Counterclockwise, Jim.
Let me tell you about Counterclockwise.
Yeah.
Counterclockwise is this man right here.
Yeah.
Is right here.
Wow.
So Deacon Burns, aka his group Counterclockwise. And actually, did I spell counterclockwise wrong? Did I put a C in the middle? Or is it?
No, you spelled it right.
Spelled it right? Okay. For those of you that haven't ever checked out Counterclockwise, go on. They're on Spotify, on YouTube. Spell Counterclockwise with a K, all one word. And they have a deep, deep, deep catalog. When I first, I met Deacon years ago. He approached me and said, "Oh, I like your stuff." And I've been approached before by people that say, "Hey, you want to do a video?" And then I go listen to their music. I'm like, "Thanks, Brian Austin Green, but I'm gonna pass." And I heard his music, and particularly there was a song. It was "It's Working."
Oh yeah.
What's the name of that one? It's Working. We're old, anyways.
I forget my whole song.
I'll think of it right now. But
Hide and Go Seek.
Hide and Go Seek. When I heard that song, and then I went to the next one and heard that one, I was like, holy crap. The first thing I thought, they belong in a category, if you could put them in a category, that's called uncategorized. Because you talk about being experimental and taking other forms of music and influences. I mean, stuff that you've never heard anybody go in that direction. You guys were very spaced out, a group. And when I found out how it was Deacon's brainchild, you know, his baby. Then him and I bonded, and from then on, we've had a happy marriage ever since.
Yes.
So we've done tons of stuff. He's done tons of voices for me. He's in Sugar Machine. He is Sugar Machine. You know, he's a great voice artist. So I'm honored to be on here with you, Deacon. And
same here, man.
once we did this, we had to have you on because your knowledge is.
That is so cool, man. Because the first video I ever did was Moonwalk. And
Moonwalk. Yeah.
Ever since then, it was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, go check out Counterclockwise Moonwalk. There's a whole series of videos. If you go to my page or Deacon's Counterclockwise YouTube channel, you can watch all the videos there. And we didn't even mention the most popular thing that I've ever done, at least with not distributed, but on our own independently, is a movie that we did called Counterclockwise in Foreverland.
Yes.
And that thing is on it's got hundreds of thousands of views on Amazon. It got thousands and thousands and thousands of views on YouTube. It's really popular, and I think it's really like an inspirational movie in a lot of ways.
It's really dope.
Yeah, starring Deacon and Kaya from Counterclockwise. So, so again, thank you for being on here, and I'm gonna turn it over now to give some honorable mentions to our honorable Dr. Circlin, aka Scott Cirkworks, aka the Twista.
Okay. All right, here's my honorable mentions. So first off, Slick Rick,
yes.
The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. If you haven't heard this, it is, first of all, it's hilarious. Second of all, he's like the greatest storyteller in
Ever.
hip-hop.
Ever.
It's great stuff. I mean, I first was introduced to him from the Dougie Fresh and Get Fresh crew, and then when he came out with this album, I was like, "What is this?" He's just saying some crazy shit on this thing, and it's great. So definitely check out that if you're not familiar with it. Eric B. and Rakim, Paid in Full. That was a top. Again, Rakim's my favorite MC, but it's a toss up because I like all their albums. But this was the first. You know, this is kind of. It's pretty good. It's really hard for me not to put one of their albums on my best list, but yeah, Paid in Full is a great album. We've talked about Low End Theory. Again, first 3 Tribe Called Quest albums specifically for me are just awesome.
Yes.
Then I put Third Base on the list.
Great album.
This was produced by Sam Sever, who was part of my #1 pick, and this was a group that previous to that, I had only, there's Beastie Boys and maybe Everlast, I think. But before he was the Everlast, he was picking his guitar and everything. So, Beastie Boys, I love Beastie Boys, but you could tell, these guys were white rappers and everything. My friend Marcus, who's black, he played Step Into the AM for me. He says, come here, you got to hear this. And he's playing it. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is really good. And he's like, these are white dudes. And I'm like, no. And he says, yeah, no. And so and then I, eventually the whole album came out, and I mean, it's one of those, it's kind of I don't know, man. It's just the lyrics and the whole
Gary
vibe.
Hodges, gas face.
Yeah. that was on the next album. No, that wasn't.
That was on this.
That was on this one. Yeah, I was thinking Pop Goes the Weasel was on the follow up, but yeah, it's a great. It really is a great album, and I think they kind of, I don't know. It was more hip hop because I don't know if you would necessarily. I mean, yeah, Beastie Boys is hip hop, but it also sounded different. This really sounded like hip hop from a couple of white guys.
Nice, right? Prime Minister Pete Nice.
Prime Minister Pete Nice.
I don't want to take his title away.
And of course, one of my favorite groups, Public Enemy. I picked Nation of Millions. It's a toss up between their first 3 albums to me.
Oh, great.
I don't know. I mean, I could just as easily put their first album, but it's not as much as I love listening to that first album. They just didn't find their whole voice until this album here. So that's why I went with that. And then my final pick. Too short. This thing, I first heard Born to Mac, which Freaky Tales and all this stuff.
Tales.
Yeah, and then this came out, and I don't know if you would categorize it as gangster rap. It's just like Mac and rap.
No, it's more Mac music. It's not really gangster,
But he's just got this cool kind of voice and just heavy like bass and drum beats and and like just his storytelling. It's funny. It's definitely misogynistic, but it's just the whole. It's kind of just the party vibe to it, and
he does have a great voice.
Yeah,
he does. He does. Too Short is the shit. Too Short. Wow.
Those are good ones. Those are really good ones.
That was good, dude. Oh,
and by the way, up in the corner right there, up top right corner, Scott picked powered by StreamYard. Best rap albums by Ducky Duck.
Ducky Duck.
So good. Ducky Duck and the Quack Crew.
Ducky Duck and the Quack
Shout out. They were great.
Wow. These are so cool, man.
Yeah. All right, who's next?
All right, my honorable mentions. Do you have a list for mine?
Yeah,
I actually could have listed like 20 albums, but I didn't want to go that far.
I called him the other day, and I'm like, "Hey, man, he's still typing."
I know. I didn't know where to end, man, but I got to put Beastie Boys in there. One of the greatest hip hop groups ever. My favorite album to me is Ill Communication.
Yeah, I saw that. How come? What made you pick that one?
It was just so hip hop and so dope. It's like they had the best of both worlds because their first album was more like hip hop and rock a little. Then their second was just all hip hop. Then their third, Check Your Head. Then they kind of came with the rock kind of vibe. But this was the best combination of it all. You know, with Sabotage, but then they had the dope hip hop songs with Q-Tip on there. They even had Bismarck. This album was so dope to me. It was like one of the livest albums of that year. And Slick Rick, what can you go wrong with the Great Adventures of Slick Rick?
I'm going to listen to that tomorrow, by the way.
Yeah, man. And to me, my favorite, I have two favorite MCs ever. The first is Krs One with Boogie Down Productions. And my Philosophy album it almost made my top 5, but I put Nas ahead of it.
Deacon, wouldn't you hate to get into an argument with him?
You wouldn't want to get in a debate with Krs.
From Boogie Down.
Yeah, man, Krs One.
Krs One. That dude is just a great debater.
And he's one of the livest MCs. He can freestyle on the drop of a dime. He's like so amazing.
Yeah.
If you ever saw a BDP show, the whole show, you're going to be like, the entire show. It's like seeing Public Enemy live. Public Enemy and BDP live are just one of the most energetic, livest, hypest shows you can ever see. Yeah. And then with EPMD, Strictly Business, EPMD, all 4 of their first 4 albums were incredible. Ice Cube, Death Certificate, literally. You had America's Most Wanted, then Death Certificate was just like, those first 2 albums were just the best. And I had to throw Kanye West in there, My Beautiful Twisted Fantasy.
That's a great album.
Yeah, that's what right after 808 Heartbreaks came out, and everybody was dissing him. His mom's died. Then he had dissed Taylor Swift, so everybody's like banning him. Even the president called him an asshole, and everybody's like, "Fuck Kanye West." And he came out with this album and Power, and I was like, "All right, Kanye West is the shit." Yeah. That's what won me over about him. And then Wu-Tang in the 36 Chambers. I mean, it's Wu-Tang Clan, man. It's like that group. Everybody loves the Wu-Tang. And to me, one of the best, my second favorite rapper ever is MF Doom. He is lyrically the illest rapper ever, man. Because he came out first with KMD. Then his brother died right when they were trying to complete their second album called Black Bastard. And it was right when Ice-T had came out with Cop Killer. So record labels were catching a lot of slack if people were coming out with ill titles and covers, and they had Black Bastard, this black guy being hung like Hangman, the Hangman Gang. And everybody, this black lady complained. It was like, how dare you say this about black people and all this? But they didn't even check out the album. They dropped him from the label. His brother got ran over, and then he just disappeared. And then he came back like 5 years later as MF Doom with this masked character and just took over the rap game, the underground.
I didn't even know that MF Doom is a Zevlok X, right?
Zevlok X, yeah.
Yeah. I love KMD. I love that song Peach Fuzz.
Yeah, Peach Fuzz, yes, man.
I didn't know that's who MF Doom was.
Yeah, man. Recently. MF Doom, man, he's one of the greatest MCs to me. Like MF Doom's catalog is just ridiculous.
And they're very comic book. That album reminds me of a comic book.
Yes, his style is so ill, man, and he just all his albums are great. If you want to check out MF Doom, and then Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly, that album had to go somewhat to nowadays, and that album is just so creative.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they talk about a lot of rap today not being creative and all the way out. That album is 100% creative, man. And then Mobb Deep, the infamous Mobb Deep, is one of the greatest gangster East Coast albums ever made. It came out that whole era with Nas and Biggie, but Mobb Deep.
I'm not familiar. Did people branch out from Mobb Deep? Was there anybody that went solo?
No, it's just P went solo, Prodigy, but he was still connected to Mobb Deep. I mean, he put out a solo album, but he was always just Mobb Deep. It was just Mobb Deep. It's Prodigy and this guy, producer Havoc, and they both rap. And they came out super young. Their first album, they were like 14 when they came out. It was called Welcome to Juvenile Hell, and people weren't really hip to them. Then when they came out with the infamous, they're only like 17, 18 when this album came out. And they were amazing, dude. They took over the gangster rap whole category with this, or East Coast.
Gary, Josh's last comment is a pretty good one about, yeah.
It is. It's a really dope jazz album, but it's all over the place. Kendrick Lamar is to me right now, he's the best MC of this era.
Yeah, I hear. Yeah, that's what, and a lot of people agree on that. A lot of rappers agree on that.
Yeah, he's on another level.
Yeah.
He's definitely on another level. He's amazing.
Yeah. Did anybody mention Corey Feldman? Yes.
Corey.
I mean, he did the Michael Jackson thing. Did he rap too?
Gary, what do you think, man? What do you think? So this is like,
you know what? It's what you said about Scott's number one, where you said like his passion for it makes you want to go and listen close. That's kind of what I could say about this entire video. Like just listening to you guys talk about these albums, it makes me like really. It's like I want to listen to them all right now.
Little game we're gonna play.
Right.
We'll start with Deacon, go to Scott, then me. We can only suggest one album to Gary. Gary, listen to this album because I want you to know this group.
Okay.
This album represents.
I love it. Look at this. I got my Post-it. I got my pen.
He will listen to this album.
I'm ready.
Experience it.
To someone and someone who is basically a hip hop noob, like a total, you know. So like
hip hop version instead. Hip hop version.
I don't want to say that. I liked noob better. Why does it have to be virgin?
And this hip hop version is about to get turned out. So.
But what kind of music are you into, Gary? Like, what is your main music of choice?
I mean, look at me. You'd probably guess. It's a lot of like, you know, alt
Carpenters,
rock, folk kind of stuff. Yeah, like that kind of
Carpenters.
Bread. Are you familiar with the group Bread?
I like those groups too.
Bread.
I like Radiohead.
Radiohead to me is my favorite groups ever in music are the Beatles and Radiohead.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Okay. So, and the Beatles are great too. So, you know, but I am totally open-minded musically. So whatever you think, like this is a great one for him to listen to. I
think you should check out A Tribe Called Quest, either Low End Theory or People's Extinctive Travels, especially Low End Theory.
Low End Theory.
Yeah, it's an ill vibe to check out.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, again, Downtown Science. And I think it's accessible enough. I think even if you hadn't heard hip hop before, just because the creativity and the wordsmith and the production value, there's a lot of samples from some rock stuff. I think Pink Floyd and you know, just I think it's accessible enough to somebody who's not familiar with hip hop, and I think anyone that's into hip hop will also dig it. So
okay,
I'm gonna give you Public Enemy. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you Fear of a Black Planet because you're not ready yet, Gary.
Yeah.
Prep for that.
I gotta ease into that.
Yeah, you gotta ease into the Public Enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
You gotta tell us which one of those three albums you like the best after you listen to them.
I will rank these three.
Yeah.
In terms of how, and then so Josh was very active in the chat. Josh, if you want to add one to the pile, like get it in there. But all right.
Nice.
I'm excited for my new hip hop future. I can't.
Corey has a and guess what group it is?
What? I missed the first part.
Corey has a suggestion, and guess what it is?
What's that?
2 Live Crew.
Oh.
It says ass up, face down.
Okay. 2 Live Crew is actually an amazing group.
No, they actually were. They were.
Yeah, they actually are.
I never liked 2 Live Crew.
You didn't like 2 Live Crew?
I just don't think they can rap. I don't think they've ever rapped a word that's more than one syllable.
No, but you know what?
It was just so live. It was more than that. Like it was horny and just their whole shit was live.
It was. You know what it was? It was real. It was all the things that people do behind the scenes, behind curtains, and they don't want people to see them talking a certain way or doing this in clubs or I
will say the first album when it was I think it was just I forgot what it's called. Like not the as nasty as we want it. The first one.
The second one.
The first one with it was just like I thought it was just like Luke Skywalker and something like that. Yeah,
that's when he was Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. I did listen to that. I got a bootleg tape of that from the Park and Swap, and I listened to that thing and one because it was just like no one had ever said that kind of stuff on record.
Yeah, it was just so raunchy. Nobody ever rapped about like that before.
It was like a Red Fox album.
Yeah.
It was like some Richard Pryor stand-up comedy albums.
But I'm really surprised that we had so many crossovers. I mean, more than I think any of these other lists that you guys have done. We all agreed on a lot of stuff. I mean, there were a lot of stuff that kind of popped up, and I think we're kind of. We didn't, and
I thought we would have like the same groups on the same list, a lot more of that, but it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, we also got to find out that John Stamos started the East Coast, West Coast.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, it's always the quiet ones. So man, this is really, really good. I'm really genuinely excited to listen to Scott's number 1.
Yeah, please tell me what you think.
I want to listen to that, but out of everything mentioned today, the one that just stuck in my head that I want for some reason really want to listen to because I remember it, but I haven't heard it in 30 years. Whatever is Slick Rick's album, that Adventure.
Great Adventure.
Have you not heard it, or has it just been a while?
Oh, it's been a long time since I heard it.
Yeah.
Dude, I came back to that. Literally every song on that record, you'll be like, "This is great." Especially like "Treat Him Like a Prostitute." It starts off right off the gym.
I don't think I've heard it since it's come out. Like that's how long it's been.
Oh my God, you need to listen to that album.
Wow,
great. Every song, great.
Gary, not yet. Don't do it yet.
Not yet.
Actually, that's almost a good album for him to start off with. It's comical, it's hip hop, it's easy, it's live.
Yeah, I think he start with some Tribe. Work your way over into
Tribe would definitely ease you in.
Yeah,
especially if you like Radiohead, you like that vibe, you'll like Tribe.
Okay, all right.
This has been a good one, and Josh and Corey and I got 2/3 of the Artcasters here. I think we've got your next guest, not next guest, but a guest soon. You got to
wow.
Tell everybody a little bit about what Counterclockwise is the group, but it's also a brand. And you're branching out. What do you got coming up?
Actually, hold on. Sorry about that.
That's the president. Hello.
I know. Actually, what I have now working on is it's a hip hop sci-fi audio series. I came out with the first season last year. It's called The Great Adventures of Counterclockwise. The new season 2, the first episode comes out on Halloween. It's really cool. It's basically picks up where Counterclockwise and Foreverland leaves off. But it's all audio. It's just like an all audio visual movie. It's really bugged out.
Yeah,
the music and characters,
comic books,
sci-fi, hip hop, abstract. It's all in there.
Something to listen to while you draw.
Yeah, it's really abstract. It's really cool.
And where can they find that at?
Well, you can find it everywhere. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple Music.
And how many episodes right now? The first season, how many?
The first season is 11 episodes.
And they're like long episodes, so it's a lot of.
Yeah, and then I combined them all at the end and made it one big audio movie. And plus, on every episode at the end, we have commercials and movie trailers and just bugged out, stuff in there. It's really cool.
And you can find Deacon also in Counterclockwise and all this exclusive material, a lot of stuff that's not everywhere else, but on his Patreon too.
Yeah, on Patreon. Yeah, And if you go to my Patreon, you'll get all the new stuff before everybody else. Because actually, we have a new self-titled album that comes out in the fall as well. The album is done. I'm just having it mixed and mastered now at the same time that I'm mixing and mastering the episodes for the audio series.
Yeah, there's a lot of good content to listen to, because if you guys are looking for something interesting to listen to, not only his music, not only the tons and tons of music and movies animated by genius animators,
Yeah.
and Lujan and Paul Pate. But,
Yeah, right.
But and Matthew as well.
Oh yeah, actually, my boy Matt, he's involved with it too, with the series. Actually, Jim is involved too. Jim plays a couple of characters on the animated show as well.
Yeah.
Well, the audio series.
Yeah, so go check out that audio series. Oh, good. There you go, Gary. There's the link right there. So you guys, it's good stuff, I'm telling you, and a lot of exclusive stuff. So go check it out. And man, I'm excited. Yeah, I'd love to see him on maybe when you get season 2, which is going to launch pretty soon. Maybe
on Halloween.
Yeah.
Well, the first episode launches on Halloween. There'll be a new episode that comes out every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll do the top 20 hip hop albums on Artcasters.
Yeah, that'll be
No,
dope.
we'll definitely have you on, because
They'll all be Two Live
all
Crew.
day, and
Gary will pick. Corey will pick all Two Live Crew, all 20 albums. I know. Oh, all right. Is anything
This
else?
was really great, you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. This was really fun.
I love it.
Awesome. It was a lot of fun to just listen to.
Scott, before we go, anything you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I don't know, like pitching stuff.
If you want.
I don't know. You can find me on my YouTube channel. Just search Works on YouTube. I've got tons. If you're an artist and you want to learn kind of the business of art and all that kind of stuff, definitely check out my YouTube channel. There's also I've got a series on there called Making Comics 101, and it's just kind of a step-by-step process on how to make a comic. There's it's a full course, and it's free on YouTube. So definitely check that out.
Nice.
Good stuff. Good stuff. On Gary.
Do you remember? In case someone tuned in and they're not even sure, like, what the hell just happened? What is going on? Do you think maybe we should show them what they're watching?
Maybe.
I think so. That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
I remember now. Yes.
I have a question for one of the guests on the show. Jim, when is this movie coming out? I can't wait to see the new animated film.
All right.
That's a good question.
The movie I'm estimating will come out towards the end of December, but I'm going to be putting out a trailer probably in the next 2 weeks. Trailers.
Oh.
Awesome.
Yeah. So there'll be like a teaser trailer, and then the movie. And also, I want to announce that the artwork is pretty much 100% completed for the movie. I've got a few shots I'm working on, and next week I'll be recording the last of the voices for it, and it's animating time. So
awesome, man.
it's coming along.
Can't wait to
really
see
good.
it.
I'm excited. Yeah, I've been toiling away at it, having fun with it. It's called The Night Eats Its Own, and if you go to my Patreon, it's just my name, Jim Lujan, that name right there. On Patreon, every week I post little preview art, preview music, preview stuff like that. So you guys are going to see some stuff coming out pretty soon, though, on it.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it, man.
Corey is still throwing out suggestions here and there, but I don't know.
What does that say?
Sorry by Nellie McKay? What is that?
I'm not sure. I've never heard.
I think Nellie McKay was one of the producers of the Two Live Crew, I believe. I'm pretty sure. It all ties back.
You're probably right. So.
Yeah. You know what? When I first met Corey, he told me his name was Two Live Cur. So I thought that was odd, but now it makes sense. So, all right.
Wow.
Well, with that, Gary, you got a learning to do.
I got a lot listening to do, and I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, and it's good stuff, man. It's good
We
stuff.
have not decided what our next top 5 is yet, but I'm sure there'll be an announcement.
I think I know who gets to decide it, though.
Oh, is it your?
It's my turn.
I've lost track. So, all right. Well, then
Yeah.
I anxiously await what our next top. Do you know? Do you know already?
Top 2 Live Crew songs. For sure. And guess who the guest will be?
Yes, Parker.
No, I kind of have an idea. Should I say it?
If you know,
I
if
do
you're
know.
not sure yet,
I know. I'm sure.
Okay, well then let's.
Are
hear
you
it.
ready to hear it?
I'm ready.
All right. The next top 5 will be top 5 movie villains.
Oh, good one.
Wow, that's dope.
Yeah, that's good.
That's dope.
All right. We
Like
talked
Gary
about that
said,
one a little bit.
That's live.
So, all right. So
It's gonna be fun.
everyone out there, start making your list. Send us your list, and we'll read them on
Yes,
here.
we'll read them on air.
Yeah.
Show up in the chat. We don't know the date yet. Probably Wednesday or Thursday next week. Something like
Yeah,
that.
probably like that. Something like that.
All right.
But
Awesome, man. This
all
was
right.
great.
Everybody who watched, thanks for everybody who's in the chats. Thanks to all the guests. This was an awesome show.
This was
Yes.
great. Thank you guys.
Great.
Yes.
Everyone.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Hasta la
Thanks,
vista.
guys.
All right.